want to say welcome to everyone for this special edition, special reason here. We have the brilliant Dejazmatch Kwasi. We have the brilliant Dr. Talawa Adodo here for this session. The question for tonight is, does the Rastafari movement need to choose between the ideologies of Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie in order to move forward? Or is it possible for Rastafari to embrace and integrate both perspectives as a unified foundation for progress? And I want to be clear that the reasoning is talking about Rastafari moving forward. Now, if you want to touch on the historical view of both people shortly, we appreciate it. But we want to focus on which ideology you believe will be most beneficial moving forward, or can you integrate both? All right.
First and foremost, we greet your audience in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, and his chosen Queen Empress was Zero Menen. And let me also just make clear that Rastafari has a wide variety of viewpoints. So I'm going to speak from my personal orientation as a brethren who is grounded within the order of the Nyabingi. However, a brethren who's also centralized to the teaching of His Imperial Majesty, as I know extensive research on the teachings of Haile Selassie I. And what we really look at is Rastafari and the teachings exemplifying Pan-African worldview, one that accepts Ethiopia as a foundation of Africa, capital of Africa being established in Addis Ababa, through the process of the formation of the Organization of African Unity, that we look forward to an Africa that's both liberated and prosperous, modern, retaining its ancient culture and qualities, and that also works in cooperation with the rest of the world. So, having strong links with all of the different peoples and cultures of the world, retaining Africa's tolerant stand that we've always had as Africans throughout the ages. So in terms of where we're moving as Rastafari, we're looking at this from a united Africa perspective. I think Haile Selassie and Marcus share the African perspective. And I think I really don't see too much variation between Marcus and His Majesty. The only thing I would say is that the where the gap comes in is the difference between theory and practice. And I think where a lot of Pan-African scholars, where they get things wrong as it relates to Haile Selassie is because I think we're not used to seeing Pan-African leader operate on the scale that His Majesty operate. Usually we're used to national movements. Very rarely, if ever, do we see Pan-African leader operating on the level that His Majesty operated on. I would argue that none have since and none before. So it's very hard, when you have someone who's in a class by themselves to judge them according to other leaders. For example, His Majesty have a nation to deal with. The repercussions of his actions, of his word sound, impact the nation, whereas most of our Pan-African leaders, with the exception of the founding fathers of Africa, were dealing with political movements or national movements or regional movements. And they didn't have the power, they didn't have responsibility for military. They didn't have responsibility for educational system. They didn't have the responsibility of agricultural sector. most of their pronouncements were theoretical. Some, like Marcus, moved from the theoretical to the practice, but then, as we know, tragically, his movement was infiltrated, corrupted, and then he was expelled from the United States to Jamaica, where he was also sabotaged and ended up in England, very upset, bitter from the what he perceived as the betrayal of his movement, and then, of course, famously getting into conflict with His Imperial Majesty while in England before he passed, and unfortunately didn't get to live to see the liberation of Ethiopia. However, so I think that is where the gap lies, because if we examine all of the goals that Marcus have, what I would like to put forward is that all of them were realized through the works of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie the First. Of course, we have to talk about the EWF, Ethiopian World Federation, established by His Majesty through his emissary, Dr. Malaku Bayin, who was a Howard University alumni. And when you look at the constitution of the EWF, you would see that it states this organization was created for the Black peoples of the world.
So, in terms of Nana Marcus Mosiah Garvey, I think the best way to explain his stance in the most concise way is Africa for the Africans. So, I would say I think it's important to also distinguish two things: Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism. So Marcus Garvey was a Pan-Africanist, retroactively applied to him. You could say that. But ideologically speaking, he was a Black nationalist. So Black nationalists generally are Pan-Africanists, but not all Pan-Africanists are Black nationalists. So I think that distinction is actually important. As I get older, I realize that distinction is important. And why it's important is that for Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, their objective was Black nationhood, um, basically a Black world nation, essentially. So, in terms of power, so what does Black world power look like? What is the Black man's government? What is his philosophy? What is beauty to Black people? So, everything Black, really a Black world order, is what Marcus Garvey and the UNIA represents.
Does Rastafari have to pick an ideology, or, as I said, moving forward, can you integrate both philosophies in regards to the mission moving forward?
Can you reconcile um, Haile Selassie with Nana Marcus Mosiah Garvey? For me, I would say no. The reason why is that with Nana Marcus Mosiah Garvey and his philosophy, it's very clear that his objective is a Black world order. Haile Selassie, I wouldn't say has a Black world order objective. The way I would classify Emperor Haile Selassie's objective, I think he has, I would say what you might call an internationalist perspective, where it's like, okay, African people can work together, but he's also about modernism, right? So he's attached to certain European things conceptually. So I see him more as like an internationalist with a slight, Pan-African flavor. So I think what happens is some of his ways of thinking about things is fundamentally different from Nana Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So, for example, with Papa Garvey, him talk about, Africa for the Africans. Emperor Haile Selassie envisions a world where someone is not judged a man is not judged by the color of his skin. That gets into sort of like a post-racial, we can all come together type of vision. Whereas Marcus Garvey is about a Black world order for Black people. So I think those two objectives are irreconcilable. Because if you're working towards one objective and the other working towards one objective, you all them pull one way, you all them pull the other way. The two can't really link up right. So I see this contemporarily unjust. And I know, and Baba Kwasi is absolutely correct. Not all mansions and houses have the same type of thoughts. So I'm very sensitive to that. But for me, there are certain issues that should be clear. And I think part of the reason why certain issues aren't clear is because of that contradictory, what I would call a contradiction between having Marcus Mosiah Garvey as a prophet and Haile Selassie as him, right? In that light, I think that's where the contradiction is, because they had two different political objectives.